Yo, yo, yo. Okay, we here with another reaction one. You already know. We'll switch it up sometime. I am a huge Harry Potter fan. I mean, a huge, huge, huge one. Huge, huge, huge one. Um, we're looking at the real reason that the Weasleys are so poor. I've always wondered why, but I've seen one theory where they were it's because they didn't want their kids to grow up thinking about like fancy facts, like fancy shit and all that. But this one it says they're cursed. So yeah, I'm interested to see. So get your motherfucking doobies rolled and get your fucking Walters and let's go.
Everyone,
And also hit the like and hit the comment and hit the subscribe button as well. Thank you, thank you. Sorry for that damn mic.
welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we're going to be discussing a rather sinister theory that might finally provide some answers on the Weasley family's elusive financial status. This theory challenges previous interpretations of their poverty and reaches beyond the conventional conception that there just isn't enough to go around in such a big family. It's a dark one, and I guarantee you haven't heard this one before. I think you're going to agree with me. Let's dive in.
Well, I hope it isn't too grisly, cause shit, they've always managed to, keep a motherfucking smile going.
In a world full of magic where seemingly anything is possible, it's always shocking to hear that even witches and wizards are capable of experiencing financial hardship. The advent of magical abilities makes life a lot easier in a lot of ways, but one limitation of note is that gold cannot be multiplied, therefore wealth cannot be created. The result is that even magical families who can do amazing things like fly through the air, summon objects with the flick of their wand, and teleport can find themselves in financial dire straits. Within the novels there are a few examples of fan-favourite witches and wizards exemplifying this, but perhaps the best-known example refers to the Weasley family, the 9-person-strong wizarding family that embraces Harry with open arms right near the beginning of the first book. There are numerous passages referencing their lack of wealth, and their poverty seems to be pretty consistent throughout the books. In the Chamber of Secrets, Harry ventures into the Weasley family vault for the first time and witnesses firsthand just how dire their financial situation really was. Harry enjoyed the breakneck journey down to the Weasleys' vault, but felt dreadful, far worse than he had in Knockturn Alley when it was opened. There was a very small pile of silver sickles inside,
Is this from the book? Because if it is, oh my god, he has a new fucking subscriber.
and just one gold galleon. Mrs. Weasley felt right into the corners before sweeping the whole lot into her bag. And what makes their poverty even more evident is the fact that it's constantly contrasted with Harry's massive fortune of generational potion royalties. Right near the beginning of the first book, we're brought to Vault 687 and witness Harry's immense stacks of gold. And when we're first brought to the Weasleys' house, the description provided by the book doesn't exactly paint them as the
Okay,
pinnacle.
so wait, so Harry was never poor. Well, judging that he lived with his aunties and uncles, he just wasn't able to live on his own as a wizard or whatever. Because that gold makes him sort of like Malfoy and Lucius type. Like he's up there with them. Like they have gold, and stuff like that. Like yeah, he took on. He had the rest of the Black's fortune, like the Black family, not the color Black, but the family Black. Like Sirius Black and his family, like he had their fortune too. So he had the fortune that his parents left him, and then he also had the fortune that Sirius Black left him too. And he took on all the properties that the blacks owned and inherited their house elf, which was Creech. But so that nigga Harry was loaded. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Why didn't he help his mans out? Like what the fuck? Ron literally was that best friend, best friend, best friend. Why didn't you be like, not even be like, okay, here I got y'all something. You could have just been like, well, wait a minute, let's keep seeing, because they like Ron's dad probably said something.
Of wealth. It looked as though it had once been a large stone pigpen, but extra rooms had been added here and there until it was several stories high, and so crooked it looked as though it were held up by magic, which Harry reminded himself it probably was. 4 or 5 chimneys were perched on top of the red roof. A lopsided sign stuck in the ground near the entrance read, "The Burrow." Around the front door lay a jumble of rubber boots and a very rusty cauldron. Several fat brown chickens were pecking their way around the yard. But why are they so poor? Does it even make sense? And just how long have the family been poor for? Is this generational poverty? Let's look at the facts. The first argument one might make with regards to the Weasleys' financial status is that they simply had a large number of expenses, and because Arthur was the primary earner for the family, his salary simply didn't go a particularly long way. Arthur Weasley worked for the Ministry of Magic and was head of the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts department. It was his job to regulate the use of magic on Muggle objects.
You're the person with
No.
the gun. The person who...
Come on, man. We trying to continue. We ain't trying to hear no motherfucking ads, man.
Items from falling, job to regulate the use of magic on Muggle objects, and to prevent bewitched items from falling into Muggle hands. Later on, however, he was promoted to the head of office for the detection and confiscation.
That sounds like a hellified job. Why was he paid so little for that? Because, hell, humans get, or muggles get their hands on that type of shit sometimes daily. They order it. If we're talking like if the wizard world existed type shit, like, yeah, they can get that shit anywhere.
Confiscation of counterfeit defensive spells and protective objects department. We aren't actually provided with in-depth information on how much Arthur makes. However, what's particularly unusual about all of this is that Arthur,
Come to find out, Arthur got like a whole big ass mansion on the east side of London and some old shit. And then when he apparates in the fucking London booth, that's where he goes.
in both of his roles, is head of a department.
That's what I'm saying. You can't be head like Ermbridge Fudge was a head of a department, that crazy ass woman, but her methods, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, Hogwarts was getting out of hand. Motherfuckers was getting into spells they wasn't supposed to. Look how much bullshit happened because Hogwarts was so fucking lenient with shit. You had Tom Riddle go fucking crazy, which is, yeah, like the ministry is probably looking at Dumbledore like, my nigga, you don't peep this, do you? This is your fault. Y'all started this goddamn school knowing that these kids was gonna venture off and then have the audacity to have fucking forbidden spells and unforgivable spells in a library and just gonna say restriction area. Like, come on, bro. Seriously? So I agree with what her methods was. True that she was trying not to like believe that Voldemort was back, but other than that, she was trying to get the school back in order. She was trying to get them back on what the fuck the school was made for. So I feel it.
Presumably Arthur, in a position of authority at the ministry, should be compensated accordingly, right? One factor here that may have influenced Arthur's salary was his relationship with his boss, Cornelius Fudge. It's well known that Arthur and Cornelius did not get along, and so it is possible Fudge inhibited Arthur's salary and career progression. But salary aside, it's reasonable to assume that the most significant expense for Arthur was undoubtedly his children, and all of the expenses that come with having children. Every single one of the Weasley children attended Hogwarts, and while Hogwarts is affordable in some ways, tuition is free, school supplies and materials are not, especially at scale. Buying wands, books, brooms, and all sorts of other school supplies on top of taxes, bills, insurance, food, clothes, robes, and even fines, Flying Ford Anglia incident, comes at a heavy price, and given that Arthur was the sole provider for the family, I suppose it does make sense that the Weasleys were under some level of financial stress.
But they never fucking showed it. You never seen his mom or his father like crack because they didn't have what they didn't have.
However, with all of that said, there are a large number of reasons why their financial situation makes little to no sense. First of all, even partway through the books, the Weasley family seem to have developed quite a few healthy income streams, which presumably should have taken some of the stress off of Arthur. Fred and George opened a successful business, Bill worked as a curse breaker, Charlie worked with dragons in Romania, and Percy worked for the ministry. If the Weasleys were truly as skint as we're led to believe, shouldn't the children have shown compassion for their hard-working father and sent home some money? The Weasleys, aside from Percy, were a particularly tight-knit group, and I'm sure they would have done anything to help out their father.
Well, I mean, in the case with Bill Weasley, the one who hunts the dragons in Romania, he actually, I think he married in with the girl from the Lady Mistress School from Goblet of Fire, and she looked like she came from wealth. So it's like he's not wrong. They could have helped him out That's what I'm saying. Hopefully he says something about Harry helping them out in a book or something like that. Because, yeah, that'd be fucked up.
Furthermore, each new working professional represents one less expense on Arthur's end, meaning that by the time all of these children were working, Arthur's salary should have been more than enough to support.
But one thing you got to say about Arthur, the father, when his kids went to school, he made sure that they had snacks to participate, like that they had money to participate with. They had little money to get snacks with. Wasn't like always they could get all the snacks they want, but they could get their favorite one type shit. So you got to get that man props.
His remaining dependents. The next thing worth considering is that the Weasleys were purebloods. In the wizarding world, being of pureblood lineage typically suggests a higher likelihood of wealth and prosperity due to their long-standing history within wizarding society. In most cases, this longevity provides them with ample time to amass wealth and establish influential positions.
So are they saying like because wizards live longer, or because of the family tree of wizards, or like what do you mean? Comment below down, like comment that and let me know what he meant by that.
Within this society. It gives them a greater opportunity to accumulate resources, property, and magical artifacts, further solidifying their status and financial stability. But in the case of the Weasleys, they don't seem to have anything.
If y'all like how this is going so far with the Harry Potter content, comment down below #Harry and we will do more of these damn Harry reactions. I'm going to do them either way, but still.
To show for it. Expanding on the last point further, it's also worth mentioning that Molly Weasley Pruitt. Ending on the last point further, it's also worth mentioning that Molly Weasley, formerly Molly Pruitt, married into the Weasley clan, effectively combining the Pruitts, another pureblood family, with the Weasleys. And what's particularly important to note here is that Molly should have been the beneficiary of at least some of the family's generational wealth. Lastly, it seems like even after the kids have all graduated from Hogwarts, the Weasley family continue to live in a somewhat impoverished state. It's also mostly suggested that the Weasleys are basically perpetually poor, regardless of their current income levels, expenses. Here's where things get even more interesting. In Hogwarts Legacy, which takes place over 100 years before the Harry Potter story, we're introduced to even more Weasleys, such as Hogwarts student Gareth and Hogwarts professor Matilda. And what do these Weasleys have in common with the Weasleys of present day? Why, they're also broke, of course. In the game, Gareth Weasley describes his family as being large and poor. He then goes on to state that even though his aunt is a professor at Hogwarts, it has no real impact on the family's financial situation. Here's the theory. The Weasleys have been cursed. Specifically, I think it's a blood curse, and I think the conditions of the curse are what keep the Weasleys in perpetual poverty. There are plenty of curses in Harry Potter that can span generations, like the Maledictus curse, for example, which is passed down the bloodline and afflicts the women. Nagini is a prime example of this. Astoria Malfoy, the witch who would become Draco's wife, also later dies of a blood curse. So we know that curses affecting an entire bloodline are possible. We also know that rather intricate, non-specific curses are possible, like the Defense Against the Dark Arts curse, which is said to afflict anyone who assumes the role of professor for Defense Against the Dark Arts. There are a lot of intangibles for these sorts of curses, but they always seem to achieve their respective goals in a roundabout way. I think the same can be said for the Weasley curse. I think that no matter how successful the Weasleys may become in their professional endeavors, they are doomed to stay in relative poverty. By the end of the books, the Weasley family's combined income should have been considerable, but it seemed like year after year they were stuck facing the same sorts of financial adversities. I theorize that the curse works in one of a few ways. The first is that no matter how successful they are doomed to lose most of it due to mismanagement. Their curse is that they are horrible with money. And this may have caused the generations of Weasley family members to take ownership over this trait and chalk up their lack of wealth to their own shortcomings, rather than investigate further and discover a potential reason. I suspect.
But what about Ron though? Like even he married in with Hermione, so like what?
That they may be entirely unaware that they are even afflicted by this curse. A prime example of this curse in effect was their trip to Egypt. For the first time in years, the family had some disposable income after winning the Daily Prophet's grand prize galleon draw. And what exactly did they do with their money? Did they spend it fixing their house? Did they buy new clothes for their kids? No, They spent it on a family-wide month-long summer holiday to visit their son Bill in Egypt. When they came back from the trip, they had enough galleons left over to buy Ron a new wand. But apart from Ron's wand, all of the money was spent on the trip. My next theory is that no matter how successful they may be, they are doomed and cursed to earn little more than what their expenses dictate. That is, no matter what they earn, their expenses will always rise to counter earnings, or vice versa. So now the big question, why are they cursed? Well, I suspect that it has something to do with their family being blood traitors. Within the wizarding world, there is a pureblood directory known as the Sacred 28, a list of the 28 remaining pureblood families in the wizarding world. The Weasleys happen to be on this list, but they also have a long-standing reputation for their tolerant views of muggles, half-bloods, and mudbloods, which frequently gave way to other members of the Sacred 28, referring to them as blood traitors. But just as they were scorned by those who valued blood
That would make sense. That would make sense.
purity, the Weasleys were outspoken about their resentment for being included in such a list as the pureblood directory. Weasleys were typically sorted into Gryffindor House while attending Hogwarts, and many members of the family supported the Order of the Phoenix. Given the rich history of the wizarding world, and the fact that the Weasleys have been around for many centuries, I suspect that somewhere along the way they caught the attention and focus of a group of dark witches or wizards, likely other members of the Sacred 28. Who exactly cursed them is anyone's guess, but wouldn't it make things super interesting if it turned out to be the Malfoys? I'll leave that one up to you guys to decide. Anyway, that's it for today's video. What do you think?
That was a damn good one, man. We're definitely gonna do some more up after that. We're definitely gonna do more after that. I find it kind of fucked up that Harry didn't give them no bread. Dumbledore didn't be like, yo, let me help the Weasley family out. They always coming in clutch. They played a huge part in keeping Harry safe, keeping him alive, and all that shit. So yeah, the Weasleys definitely got the short end of the stick. So probably they were cursed. Fuck around. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was this nigga. Like, not so much her, but like this motherfucker right here, Lucius. Because even on Goblet of Fire, like when Malfoy gets to talking shit to them, like, yeah, we've been invited by the head guest himself. He says no. There's no need to boast to these people. Like, yeah. But like, comment, subscribe for that one, and I'll see you in the next one.